Hi, I'm Kimberly, and if you're new here, then welcome to my channel. Every week I share a new crafting, sewing, or Cricut video on my YouTube channel. Don't forget to subscribe and then turn on the notifications so you don't miss out on my next crafting video. Today we will be making two fun Dollar Tree projects. We're going to be making these really cute personalized Christmas elves and these Santa cams using our Cricut Joy. Now these projects worked really well for large groups of people and they are huge sellers at craft shows. They are also really fun to make if you have kids. For both of our projects today, we are going to be using our Cricut Joy. We're going to start with our Christmas elves for our first project, and then we will be making the Santa cams next. For the Christmas Elves project, you will need the following supplies: Dollar Tree elves, iron-on, a Cricut machine, a Cricut Easy Press Mini or a small iron, a weeding tool, a pair of scissors, and an ironing mat. We're going to start by opening up Design Space. Using the shape tool on the left-hand side, I'm going to select the square. We are going to resize them to the measurements of the elves. So I want to create two squares that are 2.25 by 3 inches for the hats, two squares that are 3 by 1.5 inches for the chest, 4 squares that are 2 by 1 inch for the feet, and 1 square that is 5 by 2 inches for the skirt. You can start by duplicating the square until you end up with the 4 squares that you need. We will need a total of 9 squares, but since we have multiples of the same size, you can just duplicate them after we've sized them correctly. We're going to be making templates for both the boy and the girl elf. When you're resizing, make sure that you unlock the lock on the left-hand side of your shape. What this is going to do is allow you to change the shape rather than just being stuck with a perfect square. You can either drag to resize the button to the desired size, or you can enter in the width and the height on the top underneath the section that says size. Let's start by making a 2.25 by 3 inch rectangle for the hats. You're going to duplicate this so that you end up with 2 of these. Now let's make a 3 by 1.5 rectangle for the chest. Go ahead and duplicate that until you have 2 of them. Now let's make a 2 by 1 inch rectangle for the feet, and you'll duplicate that so you end up with 4. The last thing we need to make is our 5 by 2 inch rectangle for the skirt. Once you have all of your shapes sized correctly, we can start using those as our templates while we're designing in Design Space. A little tip that can make it easier is to change the colors of the template so you know what you're working on with the right colors. We are going to change the shapes to red and green. For the boy, it's going to be red for the hat and the chest, and then for the girl, we're going to have red for the hat and for the skirt, and then you'll want to make sure that her bodice is green. And they both have green shoes. Now, you can cut out whatever designs you would like to put on your elves, but today I'm going to be cutting out their name, a date for one of the feet, and then a few little decorations for the skirt and for the hats. Let's start by adding some names to our canvas. On the left-hand side of Design Space, I'm going to be clicking on the text tool. Then I can enter the name that I want to do. If you click on your text, an option for font shows up at the top of Design Space over on the left. You'll want to scroll through the fonts and pick out whichever font you'd like best. I find that bold fonts are a little bit easier to work with and they show up better on our little elves, but feel free to choose one that you like. Today I'm going to be using Arial Rounded MT Bold. Now that we have our font, we can also resize our name to fit into the template for the chest. Again, you can use the resize tool or input the numbers at the top. But something to keep in mind is you want to go a little bit smaller than this, just keeping in mind that this is a rounded body and you don't want to fill up the whole template. Since I'm planning on using a white iron-on, I'm going to change the color of the font to white. Now I can go ahead and add a date to the foot template, and I'm going to add another text box and just type in exactly what I want. You can resize this to fit into the foot template. You'll want to take into account the shape of the foot as it isn't a perfect rectangle. Next, let's go ahead and add a little detail to our hats and to the little girl's skirt. Click on images on the left-hand side of the page and we're going to add some snowflakes. So if you type in snowflakes into the search bar, it's going to show thousands of results. We can narrow it down by clicking on the ownership tab on the left and selecting free from the drop-down menu. I'm just going to select the first few snowflake images because they're super simple and they're cute. Go ahead and select the image and then insert that image into your canvas. Now we can resize the snowflake to fit where we want it to go. I'm going to make it about 1 inch wide. I am going to add a snowflake to each of my hats and then also to my little girl's skirt. The resize tool will be easiest to use for this. We are sizing them fairly small for the hats and a little bit bigger for the girl's skirt. And again, I am going to change these files to a white color. Now we have all of our names, dates, and shapes all sized to how we want them, so it's time to get cutting. First, we're going to hide our shape templates since we don't actually want to cut those out. You can hide them just by clicking on the eye by each shape on the right-hand side in your Layers panel. Then go ahead and click on the drop-down menu at the top right next to the Make It button to select which machine we're going to be using today. Today I'm using my Cricut Joy. Next, go ahead and click Make It. Since all of our images are white, they are all on the same mat. I'm going to be using a matless Cricut Joy Smart material today. Now, this next step is crucial. Make sure that you've turned Mirror on. Click the button on the left-hand side under Mirror, and it's going to turn green. And your words will go backwards on the mat, and that is exactly what we want. You can go ahead and spread out your words if you need and your snowflake just to make sure there's more space between them. This is going to make it a little bit easier to cut apart later on. Now it's time to click Continue. Select your machine, then click Browse All Materials and find the type of iron-on that you're using. Make sure that your fine point is inserted into your machine. Now you're going to get your material ready for cutting. Get a piece of your white iron-on and feed it into your machine. Once it's done cutting, unload your mat and click Finish. I'm going to be removing all of the iron-on that I do not want to transfer to my project. I like to start by weeding in the corner of my project. You can use your weeding tool to make it a little bit easier to pull the material away from the backing. Once I have that corner up, I will usually just use my fingers and gently pull away the rest of the material. I like to use a 45-degree angle to slowly pull that excess material away from your project. You want to be really careful not to rip anything in the process. I like using my weeding tool to get the more intricate parts of my design up, like the insides of my letters. If you need help seeing which parts of your design you need to weed, you can either hold it up to a light or to a light box. The light shows through the cracks, making it a lot easier to weed this, especially with glitter iron-on. I'm going to use a pair of scissors just to cut apart my designs, that way I can place them all over my elves. Now that our design is ready to go, it's time to heat up either your easy press or your iron. If you're using an iron, set it to high heat with 0 steam. You want to make sure that that water basin is completely empty, otherwise the steam could ruin your transfer. Cricut has an amazing guide online that tells you exactly what temperature, time, and pressure you need to press your iron-on at, so I'm always referring to that when I do iron-on. The exact settings are going to vary depending on the type of iron-on that you're using and also the material that you're transferring it to. Also, be sure to check if your iron-on is either warm or cool peel. This is going to let you know whether you should peel your backing sheet right when it's warm, a few seconds after pressing it, or completely cool, which is about 1 to 2 minutes later. For this project, I am going to be heating my Easy Press Mini up to medium, which is the 2 little waves on the front. They will turn green when they're ready, and I'm going to be pressing for about 25 seconds. Before I press my design, I really like to lay out where I want the designs to go. We are going to start with the name on the chest of my elf. Once you're happy with the placement, you can go ahead and press your design. You want to double check to make sure your Easy Press is heated to the correct temperature before you start pressing. According to the heat guide, we need constant movement with light pressure for 25 seconds. So I'm going to gently move around my Easy Press just to cover all the parts of my design. Since the Easy Press Mini doesn't have a timer, you will need to keep track of it using a timer like on your phone, or you could just count to 25. Our iron-on is a cool peel, which means that we need to allow the design to cool before we peel off the backing, so about 1 to 2 minutes. Once your design is ready to be peeled, you can just peel it away at a 45-degree angle. I like to start peeling from the corner of my design. As you begin peeling, make sure that you're checking that your design has completely transferred. Now you're going to want to follow this same process for the rest of your designs. Once you've finished putting your iron-on onto your elves, I like to give them a good pressing all over their body just to make sure that they look a little bit nicer because they do get a little bit crumpled up while they're at the store. So I'm just gonna go over their legs and flatten them out. I wanna make them look nice and pretty. Just make sure that you avoid going over your iron-on. Now, you might be wondering how much you can sell these elves for. On Etsy, these personalized elves sell from anywhere between $3 and $10, and they happen to sell like hotcakes on Facebook and at craft fairs. Because the cost of the supplies is really low and it doesn't take a lot of work to personalize these items, it is a great item to sell during Christmas time. If you're looking for them, you can find them in the seasonal aisle at your local Dollar Tree. If your Dollar Tree is sold out of them, be sure to look online at dollartree.com to find them. Now let's move on to our other project, which is our Santa cams. These Santa cams are really popular and they're also really fun to make. Here are the supplies that you will need for this project. Plastic round ornament, glitter, polyacrylic, a syringe, a lens from the Dollar Tree, a Cricut, smart vinyl, transfer tape, a small funnel, glue, a cup, alcohol, paper towel, and a weeding tool. Let's start out with our ornament. So you want to remove the metal lid of your ornament. You're going to fill your syringe with polyacrylic. The amount of polyacrylic you need really depends on the size of your ornament. Then you're going to squeeze the polyacrylic into the ornament. Gently swirl the ornament around to coat the entire inside thoroughly. This is important because you want the glitter to stick on all of the surfaces. If you happen to have any excess, you can dump it back into your container. Next, go ahead and get a small funnel, or you can make one by rolling up a piece of paper. Go ahead and pour the glitter through the funnel. You'll want to plug the end with your hand or some other material and then shake until the inside of your ornament is completely coated in glitter. You can discard the excess glitter or you can save it for another project. To replace this ornament lid, you'll want to pull on this top so that the little legs are all the way inside. Place it onto the ornament and then push down. Set your ornaments aside and let them dry. Now let's head over to Design Space. Here we have our canvas. Go ahead and click on the Images tab on the left-hand side and it's going to open up a search bar. Type in Santa Cam. Now a bunch of images are going to pop up, but we're just going to use the very first image. Insert that image into your canvas. Since we're going to be using a physical lens, we don't need the lens on the image. But if you aren't able to find the lens at your Dollar Tree, then you can keep the image just how it is. Go ahead and select your image and then click Ungroup on the right-hand side of your page. Now you should be able to select the lens and you can go ahead and delete it. Make sure that you've deleted both the black and the white parts. You're going to be left with just the words Santa Cam. Now we want to make a template of our ornament. Go back to the Shapes button on the left-hand side and insert a circle. I'm going to resize the circle by using the resize tool, or you could input the numbers at the top where it says size. I'm going to make it about 4 inches in width because when I measured my ornament, that's about how big the front was. Now I have a circle that is roughly the size of my ornament. I'm going to change the color of my circle up at the top left next to line type because I'm going to be making my ornament red and my letters white. I find that changing the color really helps me to visualize my ornament. We're going to add in one more circle. Again, use the Shapes tool on the left-hand side. This time we're going to change the size of the circle to the size of our lens, which is about 1 inch. You can place this small circle on top of your ornament circle. We really want our lens in the middle, so we are going to place our circle in the middle of the ornament. You can also select both of your images and align them. Since our ornament measures about 4 inches across, we want to make sure that the words are quite a bit smaller because we want the words to show up well when you're looking at it from the front. I'm going to resize my words so that they are about 2.5 inches in width. Go ahead and select the image and you can resize it. Now we have a rough visual of what our ornament will look like, so let's go ahead and cut it out. First, make sure that you hide your circles since we won't need to cut those. We only want to leave the words there since that's the only thing we're going to be cutting, and I'm going to duplicate this so that I can cut two at the same time. Make sure that you've selected the correct machine up in the right-hand corner and click Make It. We are going to click on Without a Mat since we're using the Smart materials and we don't need to use a mat with this. You can leave the layout how it is when it shows up and then just click Continue. I'm going to select Smart Vinyl Permanent, and your screen is going to prompt you when it's ready to load the materials into the Cricut. When it finishes, unload it and cut off the excess material. Then you can set it aside for just a minute. Cut a piece of regular transfer tape about the same size as your image. Go ahead and remove the paper liner from the back of your transfer tape and lay the tape on top of the image. You'll want to make sure to use the grid lines as a guide for lining everything up. Using a scraper tool, you can burnish your image onto the transfer tape. Then trim away as much transfer tape as you can from the words. Gently peel the transfer tape from the paper backing at a 45-degree angle. If the vinyl does not transfer to the tape, lay it back down and burnish it again. Cut darts in between each letter. This is going to make it a little bit easier for you to transfer your design to a round surface. Place the transfer tape onto the item you are transferring it to. Take extra care to make sure that the transfer is straight and it's aligned exactly where you want it to be. Use your scraper tool to burnish the design to the base. This helps the sticky backing to fully adhere to the surface. Your transfer tape won't lie flat. Just make sure that your words lie flat. Carefully pull the transfer tape away from the image at a 45-degree angle to reveal your finished design. Go ahead and repeat these steps for both of your words. You'll want to allow your vinyl to fully cure for 24 hours before washing it or exposing it to water. This will help the backing of your vinyl to fully adhere to the material that it's been placed on, and it's also going to create a long-lasting result. So I like to use a Sharpie on the back of this little camera, and the reason why is if you put a little bit of Sharpie on the back, then you won't be able to see through it. It makes it look a little bit more realistic. Once the Sharpie has dried, I'm going to apply a layer of glue around the edge of my cam, and then I'm going to place it in the center of my vinyl letters. And you just want to hold on to that for just a second, making sure that it's fully adhered. If you want to add a little extra to your Santa cam, you can personalize the back with a name, a date, or even a message. If you're wanting to sell these Santa cams, the prices range from $8 to $15 on Etsy. Now, the Santa cams and the Christmas elves really make the perfect gift when they're paired together. You could put them in a cute box and have a special delivery straight from the North Pole. I just love how these projects turned out, and I can't wait to see what you make with this tutorial. Be sure to tag me on Instagram when you use this tutorial so I can see what you're making and I can share your photos in my stories. Thanks so much for tuning into Sweet Red Poppy today and learning how to make some fun holiday projects. If you enjoyed this video, don't forget to give it a thumbs up and subscribe to Sweet Red Poppy.